Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you the soldering for, or the procedure for removing bad locking header pins from your power driver board for Indiana Jones WPC. As already discussed, 120, 122, holding a hot solder iron, that's smart, and 115, you need to check if GI issues. So we determine 115 is bad. I'm going to go ahead and replace the whole thing. I only have an 11 header pin, so I'll take an 11 and then take an extra pin out and throw it in one of those. So we got to see it live. Let's do this. First step, heat it up. Pretty straightforward. Make sure your heat's not too high. If you have a temperature style professional solder gun, great. If you're like me and you have just a good solder gun that's not professional but works well, it's handy dandy. I got a Weller. I set it to the 3, the middle. You don't want too much heat on this or you can lift traces off the board. For pins like this, it's not too much of a concern, but if you're doing transistor tips, resistors, stuff like that, you really need to go low heat that and use a pencil style tip. Otherwise, you can use your for broken wires and stuff in the playfield. I use a quick electric one, works immediately. Anyways, don't worry about adding too much solder because you're just going to be solder sucking it out anyways with a desoldering unit. The first thing you need to do is get nice fresh warm solder in there and use pliers, which I'll show you in a minute, with a solder gun or a pencil, well, whatever, with a soldering iron to remove the pins. Once that's done, you're going to go back, put more solder in if necessary. Typically would do it anyways. And then desolder, put the header pin in, the new one. And I'll have to improvise because I only have an 11 header. And then you're good. Can't tell you how many times I've done this on these games for 120 and 121. This is actually the first Jack 115 I've had to do, but it was definitely bad this time. And the previous owner did a lot of work in that area, 120, 121 on this board. I could tell it was working pretty darn good other than one wire, but this 115 was just garbage. On this one, that is, it's gone. Alright, so we got solder in all of it. Beautiful. So let's put all that away. So now what we do is you just yank on, do not, keyword, not use force on this, just the most gentle force, just real light force. And you kind of let the soldering iron push it through gently. Just gently push it through, and boom, look at that. Now this one was separate from the rest of the locking header, and that's what I kind of have to do here anyways, because there's an issue with this pin. That was one of the two bad connections I had in here. Anyways, the next two pins I'm doing here are part of the big header, so these pins should just come out. I don't think the header will come out with it. That first pin was the exception to the rule. See, look how easy it is. And don't touch it, it's going to be hot. I'm going to look at the video cam, make sure I'm zoomed in on that area. It's probably a good idea. Yeah, that's good as I can get it. So again, using next to no effort. In fact, you can actually hold it using no effort at all and strictly do all the effort from the soldering iron pushing it through. Okay? Keyword is don't pull. You can really bust up traces. Not as big of a deal with header pins, but still, don't do it, trust me. Let the heat do its job. Easy, nothing to it. As long as you don't have it on a super high heat setting, you can hold on there for 10-15 seconds if need be. It will come out. What's going on here? Oh. It was coming out. That one came out on its own. I was holding on the wrong pin all that time. This time I got the right one. Now, I have on occasion done it with the board in and done it from the front. I should take a time out and tell you about that real quick. Once this pin comes out, there, that's a tough one. So, you can't, it's not as professional, but you can solder directly on. Like if you have one bad pin, and you're in a grind, you're working on someone's machine, and you don't have much time left to service, or you're doing routed machines if you're an operator, you can just solder the bad, you can use the pliers like I've been doing, hold on to the edge, solder out the bad one, okay? Just pull it straight out, and you can slip a new one in. Just break off, take a breakaway pin, and you just gotta put it in. Don't bend it into place, but use the pliers to kind of place it in there while soldering, while touching with the soldering iron. Let the soldering iron kind of move it in place. That's the ghetto way to do it, but it does work. So I'm almost halfway done removing these. Oh yeah, when you're, I know you can't see this, but when you're soldering, try and keep it as far away from the board as possible. Don't try and touch the board, touch the edge of the pin as much as possible on the sides or top, but the top's kind of hard to touch. It just occurred to me I'm adding solder instead of using pliers. I forgot I already added the solder. Talking to you that much. Alright, let's try this again. Should be real fresh now. Came out like butter. If you ever have trouble with a spot, just re-solder it. Make it easy on yourself. If you hold that iron on the pin for a few seconds and nothing's happening, definitely 10 seconds, give a little gentle pull on the pliers, not too much. Just squeak out like that. That was a tougher one. But you do not pull hard, you pull just a little bit. Real gentle. Don't want to mess with the holes when you're putting the new one in. Trust me. This is especially important when you're doing small solder jobs. These big fat 156 pins are pretty easy. Ooh, this one's squeaking like crazy. So this one might be bad too. Either way, there were at least, I think, 3 bad pins. 2 for sure, and then 1 was in question, so I'm sure there might be more than those tarnished, but do yourself a favor. Whenever you get to this point, you know you have to do board work, just do the whole thing.